Good morning, Helen, and thank you for inviting me onto your programme today.
No problem. Now, where do you live?
In Wavendon Sands.
So you live in Wavendon Sands, okay. So why do you feel strongly about this?
Well, there are a number of reasons. Firstly, of course, this development is proposed on what is known as open countryside. Therefore, it is outside the MK Strategic Core Plan and would set a dangerous precedent and could lead to an explosion of developments which would be very, very difficult to prevent. It's really no more than a speculative venture on behalf of what some might say are rapacious developers looking to make a quick buck. And it really isn't needed. I mean, there are some 30,000 outstanding planning permissions in Milton Keynes already, plus a further 2,500 in what's known as the strategic reserve areas. So there is no need at all, and it would have a devastating impact on the local services.
So do you think that there's serious intent to build, or are the developers just chancing their arm?
I think they're chancing their arm, to be honest. I don't think there's any hope of it getting approved, but we have to make our case.
Now, a cynic might say they've got all this land that they bought at the top of the market, which they're not building on, even though they've already got planning permission. Perhaps because they won't make enough profit in the current housing market, they're going to try and buy up Greenbelt cheaply instead?
Well, the words you use there, green belt, I mean, this is open countryside.
So it's not Greenbelt?
No, well, it's outside what is known as the Strategic Core Plan. And the moment you open up this sort of area, you'll have, as I say, an explosion of development, which would be difficult to stop.
Is there an element of people living in villages, and I live in a village, and you want to keep that village how it is, but
Yes.
things have to change, and you're just kind of holding it back?
You're talking about sort of NIMBYism in a way, aren't you? Yes. Well, you have to bear in mind that some 4 or 5 years ago, the Town Council and Milton Keynes Development Council approved the construction of some 400 to 500 houses in Wavendon Sands, which increased the number of properties in Wavendon Sands by 50%. So you could say that Wavendon Sands has done its bit, and that incidentally included a fair amount of social housing. So that's a planned development. This is purely speculative, and as I've said, will have a devastating effect on the local community in terms of schools, which are, as you may know, are full. The health service is stretched to bursting point, and of course the increase in traffic on that small country road would be too much to contemplate.
Is there a part of it that you don't want to be as connected to Milton Keynes? You know, because edging the boundaries.
Well, I don't think that's really part of it. I think it's this question of open countryside. And you have to bear in mind that the objections come not just from the local residents, but from the Wavendon Sands and District Society, the parish council, the town council, a number of traders, the residents themselves, of course, and now our local MP is opposed to it. So it's very much not NIMBYism at all.
How much support have you got?
Oh, quite a lot. In fact, the developers have had 2 meetings for residents. The first, they invited just the local affected residents, and it really wasn't an expose of what they wanted to do. What they were doing was inviting us to comment upon what they were planning to do, as though to enter into a discussion, as it were. And we simply walked out. All 100 or so residents had nothing to do with it. And they conducted a second exercise in which they exposed their plans in some detail, and the residents conducted an exit poll to assess what people thought about it, and 80% of the people who visited the site rejected it outright. And bear in mind, they had invited 1,300 residents within a 1 kilometre radius of the site. So there's massive opposition. And it is growing. When the matter reaches planning application, it is likely that the wider Wavendon Sands community will rise up. I think you might say they've woken a sleeping giant. It rather reminds me of the state motto of the state of Georgia in America, where they have a coiled snake with its fangs exposed, and the legend underneath reads, "Don't tread on me."
Oh dear. Do not mess with
Don't
the
mess,
people of
no,
Wavendon
don't mess.
Sands.
And we plan to raise the tempo shortly with placards in the strategic points along the roads affected. And there's flyers already in a number of local traders. And it is to be hoped that all of this will build up a a head of steam, so to speak, as the matter goes towards
Because you're
planning.
getting in quite early, really. You're getting in quite early.
Well, you have to bear in mind, of course, that although we think the council will turn it down, you can never be quite sure, can you? And if they do turn it down, it will almost certainly go to an appeal. So you have to get ready to put your case very strongly and very forcibly.
And you've got an e-petition as well.
We do, and in fact, if your listeners who object, would care to log on to e-petition Storey Homes, they can register their objection as well.
Okay. And just to be clear, which area are we talking? Where would the development be?
Well, the best way, if you're not familiar with the territory, and I could well understand that many of your listeners aren't, their best thing to do would be to log on to Wavendon Park, and that will show you exactly the area they propose. But it is on a piece of land that straddles Cranfield Road, and that's another issue because the traffic that this will generate, some 400 and 500 movements per day on a small country road, will have a severe impact because that road, Cranfield Road, merges with Newport Road, which is a major road, right at the level crossing. And when the level crossing gates are down, you can have tailbacks 1,000 metres.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about. Actually, you can get stuck in that for quite a while.
Indeed, and this will make a bad situation much, much worse.